Under the blinding floodlights of Marina Bay, the Singapore Grand Prix was meant to be a celebration. McLaren arrived in Singapore carrying momentum, confidence, and two drivers locked in a fierce battle for the Formula One World Championship. On paper, everything looked perfect. The car was fast, the strategy team was sharp, and both Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri were performing at the peak of their abilities. But what unfolded on race night would expose something far more fragile than tire strategy or race pace. It began with a moment that lasted only a few seconds, yet those seconds would ignite a storm inside the McLaren garage. When the lights went out, the opening lap immediately turned aggressive. Drivers squeezed into the tight first corners, searching for every advantage in a race where overtaking opportunities are limited. For Norris, starting behind several rivals, the pressure was obvious. Every position gained early could shape the entire race. But that aggressive approach created a situation no one at McLaren wanted to see. As the cars fought through the opening turns, Norris attempted a bold move through traffic. In the chaos, his car briefly touched Max Verstappen's Red Bull before sliding toward his own teammate. The contact between the two McLarens was small, but the consequences were enormous. Positions changed, momentum shifted, and inside Oscar Piastri's cockpit, frustration began to build. Because from his perspective, this wasn't just racing, it was the beginning of a problem that had been growing all season long. Team radio often tells the real story of a Formula One race. While television cameras capture the action on track, the voices inside the cockpit reveal what drivers are truly thinking. And on this night in Singapore, Oscar Piastri's radio messages began to paint a troubling picture. At first, his tone was controlled. His opening message to the team carried disappointment rather than anger. He asked calmly about the contact with Norris, expecting that McLaren would quickly address the situation. After all, the team had repeatedly stated that their drivers were free to race, but there was one clear rule: avoid contact with each other. For Piastri, that rule appeared to have been broken. But instead of an immediate response or instruction, the team asked him to stay focused while they reviewed the incident. On the surface, that sounded reasonable. In Formula One, decisions often require a few moments of analysis. Cameras must be checked, data must be reviewed. Yet as the race continued, something started to bother Piastri. Nothing changed. No position swap, no warning, no clear explanation. Eventually, the frustration that had been building inside the cockpit came out over the radio. Are we okay with that move? It was a simple question, but the meaning behind it was much deeper. Piastri wasn't just asking about one corner or one moment of contact. The way he phrased the question suggested something bigger. He was asking whether the team truly treated both drivers equally, and that question would hang over the rest of the race. Inside the McLaren pit wall, the engineers and strategists faced a dilemma that many championship-contending teams eventually encounter. Managing two drivers fighting for the same title is never simple. Every decision risks upsetting one side of the garage. When Piastri's engineer finally responded, the message was cautious. They were reviewing the situation. That answer bought the team time, but it did not resolve the issue. In fact, it only raised expectations that some kind of action might follow. Piastri continued driving, but it was clear from his radio tone that he expected fairness. Eventually, the team delivered its verdict: no action. According to the explanation, Norris had been forced into the situation while avoiding another car. From McLaren's perspective, the contact was simply part of racing, not something that required intervention during the race. But for Piastri, that explanation didn't land well. His response came quickly and with unmistakable frustration. That's not fair. The words were sharp, and the emotion behind them was even sharper. Piastri argued that Norris had avoided one problem by creating another, crashing into his own teammate. The choice of words was deliberate. To Piastri, this wasn't just incidental contact, it was a mistake that had directly cost him track position. And more importantly, it felt like another moment where the team chose convenience over fairness. To understand why the Singapore incident created such strong emotions, you have to look at the bigger picture of McLaren's season. This wasn't the first time Piastri felt that team decisions had worked against him. Earlier in the year, the Hungarian Grand Prix had already created tension. Piastri entered that race leading the championship and running strongly throughout the weekend, but strategy calls during the race eventually allowed Norris to take the win. From the outside, it looked like a normal strategic outcome. From Piastri's perspective, it felt different. He believed that his position as the champion leader should have been protected more carefully. While teams rarely admit favoritism, many championship battles are shaped by subtle strategic choices. For Piastri, Hungary planted the first seed of doubt. Then came another controversial moment at Monza. During the Italian Grand Prix, a pit stop sequence shuffled the McLarens out of their expected order. When Norris ended up disadvantaged by the timing of the stops, the team asked Piastri to surrender his position. The reasoning was simple: correct an unfair situation. But Piastri had a different view. Earlier in the season, McLaren had told its drivers that pit stop delays and timing issues were simply part of racing. Now, suddenly, the rules seemed flexible. Even though Piastri eventually followed the instruction, the incident left him questioning the consistency of the team's decisions. By the time Singapore arrived, those frustrations had quietly accumulated, and the first lap contact with Norris was enough to bring them all back to the surface. After the race, both McLaren drivers spoke to the media, and their explanations could not have been more different. Lando Norris appeared relaxed about the incident. When asked about the contact with his teammate, he described it as normal racing. The conditions were slippery, the start was chaotic, and small corrections happen in those moments. From his point of view, nothing unusual had occurred. He didn't see the moment as controversial. To Norris, it was simply part of fighting for positions at the start of a Formula One race. But Oscar Piastri's view was dramatically different. Where Norris saw a racing incident, Piastri saw a clear breach of team discipline. The difference in their interpretations revealed a deeper problem. The two drivers were no longer seeing events through the same lens. For a team fighting for championships, that disconnect can be dangerous. Because once drivers begin to question each other's intentions, trust disappears. And when trust disappears inside a Formula One team, every future incident becomes more explosive than the last. Singapore was no longer just about one corner. It was about the relationship between two McLaren teammates slowly shifting into rivalry. What makes this situation even more intense is the championship fight itself. Every point matters, and every lost position can change the entire outcome of the season. After the Singapore Grand Prix, the standings became tighter. Piastri still held the lead, but Norris had closed the gap slightly. Meanwhile, Max Verstappen remained close enough to take advantage if the McLaren drivers continued taking points from each other. With 6 races still remaining, the championship fight was far from decided. In that context, the opening lap contact in Singapore carried far greater consequences than it might have earlier in the season. If Piastri ultimately loses the championship by a small margin, moments like this will be remembered, not just by fans, but by the drivers themselves. Formula One history is full of examples where teammates fighting for the same title ended up damaging each other's chances. From legendary rivalries to controversial team orders, the sport has repeatedly shown how difficult it is to manage two championship contenders. McLaren now finds itself in exactly that situation, and how they handle it in the coming races may decide far more than just race results. It may decide the champion. Ironically, all of this drama unfolded during one of the most successful seasons in McLaren modern history. The team had just secured the Constructors' Championship, a major achievement that reflected years of rebuilding and development. Both Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri had delivered consistent performances, helping McLaren outperform their rivals across multiple circuits. Under normal circumstances, the team would have been celebrating. Instead, the conversation after Singapore focused on something very different: internal tension, questions about fairness, and speculation about whether McLaren could keep both drivers happy while they fought for the same championship. This is the paradox of success in Formula One. The better the car becomes, the more intense the internal competition grows. Two elite drivers in the same winning machine will eventually collide, sometimes literally, sometimes politically. Singapore may have been the first major flashpoint, but it almost certainly won't be the last. Now McLaren faces a delicate challenge. The team must somehow maintain harmony between two drivers who both believe they deserve the championship. That means clearer communication, consistent decisions, and perhaps even stricter rules about racing each other. But creating those rules is easier said than done. Too many restrictions can frustrate drivers and reduce competitiveness. Too few rules can allow situations like Singapore to happen again. Some teams solve this by quietly backing one driver. Others try to let the battle unfold naturally. McLaren insists that both Norris and Piastri remain free to race, but moments like Singapore test how realistic that philosophy truly is. Because when the championship is on the line, drivers don't just race opponents, they race each other. And when teammates start fighting for the same title, the real battle often happens behind the scenes, rather than on the track.